My name is Miss Hannah Coley, and I have the privilege of teaching and ministering at the University of Detroit Jesuit High School in the vibrant and faith-filled city of Detroit, Michigan. Woo! I myself was Jesuit educated at Walsh Jesuit High School in Cuyahoga Falls, at Loyola University Chicago, as well as with JVC and Red Cloud High School. So it's good to be here today. So I'm joined today by two of our wonderful U of D Jesuit juniors to share about an organization that has deeply shaped our justice work this past year, Strangers No Longer. U of D Jesuit, like many schools here today, continues to navigate the tensions of our political landscape amongst students and families. Strangers No Longer began in the Archdiocese of Detroit as a Catholic response to the struggles for immigrant families. It started as a network of parish circles of support and has grown to include student circles, small communities where immigrant and non-immigrant members share stories, pray, and advocate for justice together. Now, these circles of support reflect the heart of Jesuit Catholic education, forming students and teachers alike. And our circle of support invites our students and faculty, especially in these times of division, to grow in empathy by listening to the real experiences of migration in our community, to practice solidarity by standing with those whose voices are unheard, and to live with hope by witnessing how relationships rooted in dignity can transform hearts and communities. Now, our U of D Jesuit Circle of Support is one of many across Southeast Michigan, and we're joined here today by students and faculty from Detroit Jesuit Cristo Rey High School, several of whom are leaders in their own circle of support in Detroit, in Southwest community. Thank you for being here today and for sharing so much of your experiences constantly with us and other circles. Now, named after a pastoral letter by the U.S. Bishops on Immigration, Strangers No Longer is guided by Jesus' call to welcome the stranger, a message echoed by Pope Francis, Pope Leo, the USCCB. And as St. Paul writes, "You are no longer strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the holy ones and members of the household of God." This is the church we strive to build, a home for all people, where faith and justice are inseparable, and where we seek to find Jesus Christ at the margins. And now I'd like to invite George Plymale, Strangers No Longer Youth Advocacy Chair, to share more about the practical work of Strangers No Longer at our school.
Our circle of support at U of D Jesuit continues to ask, what are the challenges of forming a group like this in our current political landscape? How can we help our classmates understand the realities of migration and displacement? How can our voices as young people shape the conversation around immigration in Detroit and beyond? And how can our faith communities stand together in public witness for dignity and justice? Maybe you're asking similar questions in your own communities, and maybe, like us, you hope to find meaningful answers. Here are a few ways our circle of support has been active in the past year. Our circle has found deep meaning in gatherings known as First Friday Vigils. These take place in Clark Park in Southwest Detroit, a vibrant majority Latino community, and this neighborhood is also home to some of the oldest Catholic faith communities in the city. The vigils began in 2016 when a young resident voiced her concern over harmful immigration policies and asked for some visible community support. Each vigil brings together neighbors, advocates, and faith leaders as a sign of solidarity and hope, reminding Southwest residents that they are not alone. U of D Jesuit students have joined committed neighbors with signs that share words to express our solidarity with our immigrant neighbors. These vigils are always closed with shared prayer and a communal meal. Our U of D Jesuit Circle of Support is reinforced by Strangers No Longer, as already mentioned, a Catholic immigrant advocacy organization in Michigan. And this summer, circles of support from all over Michigan traveled to the Thumb region of our state to hear from migrant dairy farm workers. we learned that these workers often have little protection from harm in the workplace. We met one man who was injured on the job during his job in a dairy farm. When he pursued legal action for unsupported medical bills, his employers launched an intimidation campaign against him to scare him off. We also heard stories of great hope from immigrants, including the story of a man, after escaping the Cambodian genocide in the 1970s, moved to the Thumb of Michigan and opened a restaurant, connecting locals not only to the food of his homeland, but to an experience and worldview far different from their own. Our circle is strengthened by the communities throughout the Archdiocese of Detroit, including the support of our Archbishop, Edward Weisenberger. He is a strong advocate for immigrants and youth advocacy. The Archbishop and local leaders recently led a silent march of 500 people to Detroit's ICE headquarters. This was to demand transparency and justice around the operations of ICE. Additionally, youth and immigrant leaders in Detroit gathered this October at the Cathedral of the Most Holy Blessed Sacrament on the World Day of Migrants and Refugees to share stories in prayer and reflect on the rich diversity of the body of Christ, just as God intended. So why are we involved in this group? It's pretty simple. As our Archbishop said, we cannot be silent when human dignity is violated. The gospel demands our voices and action. In his most recent encyclical, the Lexiti, Pope Leo reminds us that God's personal call to defend the most vulnerable is a loud one. In April, U of D Jesuit will host the Southeast Michigan Strangers No Longer Youth Conference, following the wonderful example set by Detroit Christ Rey last year. This event will bring together student circles, community organizers, religious leaders, and immigration advocates to share stories and wisdom about the migrant experience. Both the youth conference and the Ignatian Family Teach-In for Justice call us to gather, reflect, and imagine a more equitable future. Yet, we know these issues can be hard to discuss, especially among our current deep political divides. Still, this work begins in conversation, and the IFTJ is a great place to practice. As Pope Francis writes in Fratelli Tutti, no one is saved alone, we can only be saved together. At the close of our sharing today, we will display a QR code on the screens. We invite you to connect with us and share how your communities are engaging with immigration justice and how we can support one another in our mission of welcome. And now, I'd like to invite Joshua Harden, student leader for U of D Jesuit Circle of Support, to close us in prayer and reflection.
Strangers No Longer has given the University of Detroit Jesuit the fruits of encounter, the strength of community, and the power of faith in action. We are deeply grateful for the mentors, immigrant leaders, and students who continue to walk with us as one body of Christ. When Miss Coley spoke, she reminded us where this movement began, with a simple invitation to see one another not as strangers, but as fellow citizens in God's household. When George spoke, he showed us what that looks like. Students who refuse to stay silent, who believe that faith demands not only words, but witness. So now, as we close, I invite you to close your eyes and imagine something. Imagine a church where no one is unseen. Imagine classrooms where faith and justice are not separate conversations. Imagine schools where the stories of immigrants are not just heard, but honored. Open your eyes. That vision isn't a dream, it's a responsibility. Because the truth is, we live in a time when it's easy to look away, to scroll past suffering, or to stay silent when compassion feels inconvenient. However, the future is not built by the indifferent, but by the hopeful, by those who see the face of Jesus Christ in the migrant, the refugee, and the neighbor across the street. Go home and form your own circle of support. There are tangible ways we can all stand with our immigrant brothers and sisters. Join local vigils and liturgies that pray for and accompany detained community members. Support ministries that bring the Eucharist to those in detention centers. Volunteer with La Migra Watch or other networks helping families travel safely. Host guest speakers in your schools to share lived experiences of migration. Help organize Know Your Rights seminars or legal aid activities. Engage in difficult conversations about immigration with empathy and courage. Listening deeply to other stories, anxieties, and hopes. So when you leave this room, let this not be the end of a conference. Let it be a commissioning. We were never meant to be strangers. We were meant to be builders of a hope-filled future, witnesses to God's boundless love, and companions on the road to justice. In this world of division and fear, may we live as proof that love is stronger, that faith is louder, and that we, every one of us, are in truth strangers no longer. Thank you.